Good morning, everybody, and welcome to day 2 of Fit Show Live Online. Thank you so much for joining us today. For those of you who are coming back from yesterday, thank you for rejoining. And if you're new, welcome. We have got a packed agenda again for you today. We've had some fantastic feedback to day 1. And one of the things that we're picking up on is people are saying they love the variety and the breadth of the topics that we've brought for you. So there's been something about building your business. There's been some personal development areas. There's been some technical knowledge. And we've chatted to some of the industry stakeholders about how we future-proof with skills and retaining people. So it was a really, really great day 1. And during the course of today, you can expect some presentations around how to make sure that you're not losing those leads that you've worked so hard to get through into your business. We're going to be looking at how you care for yourself and your others and their mental wellness in your business. We're going to be talking to a great panel about smart tech and everything that's on the horizon in terms of innovation. We've got some technical knowledge coming in from Liz Clark, so we can really focus on the industry. And we'll also be having David Glenwright coming back with a video around creating a narrative on Instagram. So a really, really packed day. For those of you who weren't with us yesterday and aren't familiar with the system, we want you to be involved as much as you possibly can. So although the presenters will be delivering their seminars, I'm going to come back at the end of every session and do Q&As where we have the presenter live. So you can either ask a question just by putting something in the conversation chat box, or you can click on ask a question at the bottom of the screen and bob your question in there and I'll pick them up and put them to our presenters. Please feel free to chat to each other in the chat box as well. We are all about bringing people together and helping you to network and build the community again after what has been a rough couple of months. The only other thing to say is these sessions are being recorded so you can watch them later on, but please don't worry, there's only myself and the presenter who will ever be visible on screen. So you don't need to worry. If you've not put your lippy on or your makeup this morning, don't panic, we won't see you and you won't be recorded. But these sessions will be on YouTube later on for you to be able to pick up. So that's pretty much how the system works and how the day goes. As I say, we want to hear from you as much as possible and make it as engaging and interactive as we can. So please do be part of the conversation. Don't just feel you have to sit and listen. But our first speaker this morning is coming back from his brilliant session yesterday. So we've got Elton Boocock from Business Pilots, and Elton has been working really closely with Fit Show to try and develop some software and platforms that can help you run your business more efficiently. And we all need some of that at a time of really increased demand and pressures. So Elton has a huge background and experience in building software and marketing for specific industries. But when it came to fenestration, took the time to go and be an installer for a little while and get on the front line and actually find out what the guys really needed to build the appropriate platform. So the session he's going to talk to today builds on yesterday's, and we're going to be looking at once you've earned those hard worked for leads, how do you make sure that you convert them to cash and you don't lose them? So without any further delay, Elton, I'm going to hand over to you. I'm going to mute my microphone and dull my camera and leave you to share your screen, but I'll be back at the end to ask any questions. Thanks very much, Elton.
Thanks, Nicola. So yeah, let's get the technical bit done and share the screen so that we know that's all done. First of all, thanks for obviously joining us this morning. If you were at the session yesterday, that was all about the Work Smart series that Fit Show and Business Pilot put together. Fantastic insights. So we had the 10 topics that we've covered. But today is one that's really particularly a passion for me, and that is about avoiding the lost lead. And the reason it's a passion is because actually this is how come Business Pilot even started. So as Nicola said, my background is in marketing and systems, and the journey to Business Pilot actually came through this exact topic. So my marketing agency, Urban Media, had started working with Chairwell Windows, and over the course of a few months had doubled the number of inquiries into the business. And you think, well, that's pretty cool. I'd like some of that for myself. But in reality, sales only went up 10%. And it's at that point that I said, hold on, we've got an issue. We've got an issue here, because you wouldn't necessarily expect a doubling of your inquiries to double your sales. But at the same time, you certainly wouldn't expect it to be so far out. You know, there's 100% more inquiries, but only 10% more sales. So what's going on? Why are we losing out? And it's all about this, the lost lead. Now, the first thing to note on this is that the lost lead is all too common. You'll be having it in your business now, and I'm sure all businesses are. However good you get at this stuff, we are trying to aim for being perfect, but we're acknowledging that it's never going to be quite perfect. That's just our target. So wasting leads is all too common. And I want in this session to look at why it happens and what we can do about it. See, at the minute, we've got a massive increased demand into the industry. So a lot more customer demand forcing the leads through. And actually, if you don't pick up on every lead, you're probably not feeling the pain of that right now. So as leads start to cool off, and we're seeing that across the sector already, but as they start to cool off, that's the time you'll really feel the issue behind wasting leads. When things are in high demand, it's easy to set a habit, set a routine of just wasting leads. Now, as we go through why leads are lost and what we can do about it, again, just to repeat what Nicola said, please add stuff into the chat. Ask a question. I'll be very happy once we've gone through this to take them on direct. In fact, that's very much what I like to do. So let's have a look to begin with at why leads are lost in the first place. So again, we've spoken about increased demand. Well, as you increase the number of leads or inquiries coming into the business, then salespeople only have a certain amount of capacity, and they're just going to take the cream. Now, the challenge with taking the cream is you don't know what the cream is until it becomes a sale or not. You only have an assumption of it. How many times have you, and certainly for me, where an inquiry's come into the business and you just get that feeling, this is definitely going to be that tire kicker. This is just, we'll shelve this one because I'm so busy following up on the others, and you get proved wrong. I've been proved wrong on that so many times now that I force myself not to do it. Not a single lead is ever considered a tire kicker until they have been kicking the tire for some time. Salespeople only have a certain amount of time, and therefore they will just pick the ones that they think are the cream. But of course, remember, you've paid to attract all of those leads, not just the cream. So you need to have some kind of process in place. And that's the issue. You might have a follow-up process, but you don't have a followed follow-up process. In other words, there's nobody actually making sure you've got your process already outlined in terms of how leads should be followed up, so that you don't lose any of those leads. But are those processes, are those steps being followed up? And this was key, when we were looking at things in Business Pilot as a system, and we'll talk about systems later. How could we make it so that not a single lead is dropped, so that the follow-up process is almost forced? So we'll come back to that later, but systems can certainly help you. But the main thing is, have you got a follow-up process? And is it being followed? And the chances are that's going to be an area where you find maybe not as much as you thought it would be. This was a big one to me. So Nicola obviously pointed out that the time I'd spent in the installation business, as it were, really getting to grips with it. Once we realized, by the way, that the journey was that when we realized about these leads being lost, I then started getting more involved with the business and understanding the whole journey from initial inquiry all the way through to service calls, and spending time in every part of the business to really understand what made it tick, what was good, what was not so good, what was needed for a solution. And one of the things that really caught me was this delayed leads. So this is where somebody comes in, makes an inquiry, and because of an external factor, so that might be planning permission or something to do with the building control, the whole job gets delayed, or it might be funding, or there could be many issues as to why this job is delayed more than, let's say, a few weeks, so we're talking a few months now. Or somebody says this is a project we're going to pick up in the spring. what happens to those leads? How do you make sure that those ones don't get forgotten about? There's a real interesting phenomena whereby you think because somebody's come to you, then they're obviously interested in you and your business. But of course, a few months down the line, if you're not top of mind, if you're not back in there as though that's a fresh lead or inquiry, they've forgotten about you. With the best will in the world, we have so much information that we have to take on every single day of the week that we don't remember all of the inquiries that we've made. So we need to make sure that when somebody's inquired with you, that they definitely remember you, because it's you that's remembering them and you're being there at the right time. So what process do you have? What place do you have for these leads that go off the radar just because of the timing? So that's a key issue and where things go. The other is, what about those that are sitting in your junk mail? So a lot of inquiries, COVID especially, but even before COVID, the pandemic's just accelerated a lot of this stuff. It's not really changed the trend as much as we think. All it's done is accelerated a lot of these trends. So the whole thing of inquiries now being generated online, we're seeing that in every sector, not just installations, but installations are no different. All of us now will go online and research for things that we want to buy, the things that we need, and therefore we make inquiries online. How do your inquiries come through to you? Is it your website that sends you an email? If it sends you an email, how do you know that you're definitely getting those, or are they sitting in your own junk folder? If we went into the technicalities of it, there's all sorts of reasons why they could end up in your junk, especially if they're coming from you. So do you know that you're getting all of the inquiries that somebody made? When was the last time you actually tested your own inquiry form, for example? Or is there a better way anyway? Does it actually need to be that your leads come through to you on email? Is there actually a better way so that every single lead is automatically captured and it never gets lost? Well, that leads me into seeing when leads are actually lost. So these are all sort of reasons as to why leads are lost, and I bet you could add on probably another 4 that you've seen in your own business where you're losing leads. They're going off before the sale. But when we can see when they're lost, how do we do that? Well, first of all, it's the human element. Who is responsible in your organization for making sure every single lead is tracked until it becomes either a sale, so one business, or it's lost. It's genuinely lost. They do not want to go ahead. So who's responsible for that? And by the way, on the do not want to go ahead, they fall into 2 categories. That's the do not want to go ahead now and do not want to go ahead forever. Who's responsible? Who's tracking all of those leads? And dare I say, that shouldn't be the salesperson who's managing the leads. That's your sales manager, of course. So, but is somebody there who tracks every lead when it comes in, and they could tell you the outcome of every single lead? Well, that all sounds very laborious, and it is very laborious, which is why really you want to be looking at systems. So what systems do you have in place so that your leads are automatically tracked? You can very quickly report back on them. So there's another topic that we've not picked up on so far, because it's all about the reporting. Are you losing leads because it's particular salespeople that are not converting them into a sale? So therefore, you've spent all the money generating a lead. The lead doesn't disappear on its own accord, but the salesperson just doesn't close the piece of business. Is it that particular salesperson is great at selling one product, not so great at selling a different product? So can you see all of that instantly? Because this is what systems give you. The right systems will allow you that visibility so that you can see that a particular salesperson really has a high conversion rate on these types of products, but not those types of products. You can do something about that in your business. More to the point, though, they'll let you see the types of inquiry you're getting and whether they convert. So maybe your business in the customer's eyes is more geared towards certain work. So you keep losing out on certain jobs, and they might be the jobs that you actually want to get, and you keep losing out on them. Do you need to look different to your customer? Because it's in their eyes at the end of the day as to whether they are going to continue that journey with you or disappear from the journey. So all of this information is, if you've got that information to hand, you can actually do something about it. So what's your current systems? If I was to walk through now your user or customer journey, we would call it. So right from the point where they've gone on to good old Google and they've searched for new windows, doors, whatever it is they're looking for. So they've done that search. They've ended up on your website. They've clearly seen something that attracted them. They've made an inquiry. Where does the inquiry go? And just follow it, almost like think of a physical object that you're moving along a process. And where does it go? What happens next? So is your actual sales process, is it watertight? Are the follow-ups right? Systems help you do this, and they help you to take all of the legwork out of it. When all of this stuff I'm talking about so far, it's more work for you to do, but actually it doesn't need to be, and it's the valuable, most critical part of the work anyway, because if you're losing leads, you're throwing money away. You don't need to be doing that. So let's have a look then at 3 ways to avoid losing those leads. First of all, manage the flow of leads. So if you've got the right systems in place, you'll see how many of your leads have gone to a specific salesperson. So you could see, if you look, I'll use Business Pilot as an example because obviously it's the system I know. In our status progression feature, you could see how many leads are stuck at what stage with a particular salesperson. So if you see right up front that somebody, one of your salespeople is actually stuck with a lot of leads, they're waiting to be scheduled in for an appointment, no point throwing another one on, because they're going to start looking at that cream again. And they will start self-filtering the ones that they put the energy into. They've only got a finite amount of resource personally. They need to maximize it. The challenge is, how do we maximize it, and how many times do we get that wrong, and we follow that, the cream of the crop, and it turns out not to be. So manage the flow of leads. You'll see whether certain salespeople are better at selling certain things. That's all available to you. Okay, this one to me is absolutely key. If you do nothing else today, start to track the outcome of every single lead. So for me, that's even if you get these, the genuine tire kicker, the ones who are actually tire kickers, track them so that look, out of every 10 inquiries we get, we know that 4 of them are junk. They're genuinely junk. We didn't just decide they're junk because it's easier to write them off. No, we've tracked it, and we know for sure that 4 of them were genuinely junk. Okay, so I've got 6 left. Okay, well, I know that 2 of them were lost because of this reason, and I know another 2 of them were lost because of this reason. And we won these pieces of business, and we won it because of this reason. When you start tracking your leads like that, just think about how that can then also start to really educate you in terms of how you then market yourself as well. If you're tracking every single lead, not only are you going to stop losing leads so often, you're going to start improving your marketing, because you'll see the reasons why people didn't choose to go ahead, and you'll see the reasons why people did choose to go ahead. And for most people, that's often very different to what you think in terms of your gut feel on the subject. So track every single lead. Systems are going to become really crucial for you there as well. So I do apologize, but you're going to need a system. Okay, then it's increase the stickiness of your leads. So imagine now the scenario, that person who's gone onto Google, they've come onto your website, they've made an inquiry. You already know you're not the only people they've inquired with. So they will be looking around at other people. So how do you make sure that that particular person wants to work with you more than they want to work with somebody else? Or that could be the speed sells thing. So essentially what that means is the quicker we get back to people, the more likely we are to get that job. It could be that you've already got lined up, automated in your system, emails that go out that just back up why somebody would want to choose you over the competition. So what all of that is doing, and we're talking email marketing there, so we're back into the digital marketing aspect, I suppose, but your systems can help you with this. But you're making sure that the other person, the customer, they want to remain a lead and an inquiry with you. They want to come on this journey. It's not you trying to almost keep them on the journey despite them wanting to repel away from you. Quite the opposite. It's them wanting to be part of your lead journey sales process. So have a look at how we can increase that stickiness of the leads in the first place so that they are trying to be attracted to you as much as you are trying to attract them to you. Emails are a great way of doing that. Imagine if every inquiry got just a series of a couple of, 2 or 3 emails that spoke about other installations you'd done and how well that went, and all sorts of things you could do. If depending the size of your inquiries, you could even tailor that depending on what they've inquired about. That's where it could get quite exciting from a marketer point of view and really good for the customer experience point of view. Yesterday we spoke about that retail customer, the new retail customer experience that everybody's expecting now. That could feed into it and make sure that your leads stick with you. So look, we've looked at why leads are lost. We've looked at being able to see them. So how do we make sure we can see where they're actually being lost? Looked at 3 ways to avoid them. So what I want to do now, before we start to wrap up already or go into questions, is I want to look at taking action and where to start really. So first of all, we've already said it, track absolutely everything. You want to know in your business how many leads you're getting in, what the leads are for. Imagine that as well. If you know something is particularly on trend, why push for leads for things that are going to not be on trend? So let's say we know it's a particular product type. A particular, it might be sliding doors now instead of bifold doors. Whatever it is, then why pull in these leads and be really pushing a product that at some point the other person might choose to move away from? So when you're tracking everything, you get to see it. You get to see why people are leaving you, especially if people come to you and they're following you all the way down and you're quoting UPVC, and all of a sudden at the end you lost the business because they went for timber. It's like, hold on, I was selling the wrong thing. That's why we lost that lead. Or price, all of these things. Track absolutely everything. Systems are going to be key for you there, because doing it manually, of course, will take forever. But whatever you do, track it. Systems, get the right ones in place. So that might be down to, we spoke about losing on price. It might be getting the right pricing tool in place. You've got to think about that retail experience. So remember, some of these leads, they're being lost because you've ignored them, but some of them are being lost because you lost to a competitor. How you present yourself in this new retail experience is going to be key. So make sure you've got the right systems that help you look professional the whole way along. So systems for sure. Setting the right incentives. So again, what's your commission structures? commission structures will basically decide what the salesperson sets as their priorities. Now, when you've gone ahead and spent loads of money on generating leads, what do you want done with those leads? Is your priority that none of those leads are wasted? Are you actually incentivizing for that, though? Or are you currently incentivizing for taking the cream? Are you incentivizing for selling the bigger value job? You know, what is it you're currently incentivizing for? And does it include making sure that we don't lose any of these leads? So that's really key when we look at it. And then treat every lead like it's your last. Now, when you've got a massive, this is where we started, wasn't it? If you've got huge demand coming in, you won't right now be feeling the loss of wasting leads. You know, I remember one where an installer had suddenly taken on a new product. They did a lot of their own marketing and led people essentially. So they're pushing the brand and then pushing it to their network of dealers. And all of a sudden, then the total number of enquiries were going up, but at the same time, their own generation was going down. Well, of course, they didn't see that their own lead generation was going down because overall things were going up. If you were tracking everything, point number one on here, then you would see that actually we could have grown our business so much more had we seen what was going off. The business was growing, but we could have grown it even more if we'd have just treated every lead like it was our last. You know, so these leads are going to become more and more, you know, I think scarce is a bit of a strong word, but they're not going to be flooding in the same way as they have been after a boom. And at that point, if you've geared yourself up, if you've set up incentives, if you've created habits that essentially allow your business to just let leads disappear, then you've just shot yourself in the foot twice, because you've also put the word out on the street that you're not interested in taking on a new inquiry. So you haven't just lost that lead and it wasn't a problem because you had enough of them anyway. You've just put word out to people. We all know how people talk. You know, it's so people will be saying, actually, such and such a company, they must be too busy. They never got back to me. So what damage are you doing when you start to be flippant with and wasteful with the leads that you've got coming in? So treat every single one like it's your last one. So those are the sort of four taking actions and where to get started with it. What I'd really like to do, though, is see your questions or any points that you might have, and see what we can add into that as well. So I'm going to unshare the screen and then come back to Nicola as well.
Hello, thank you so much for that, Elton. Just switch my camera back on. I think that's so beneficial for anybody, whatever part of the industry they're working in and whatever their business. So yeah, we'd be really keen to get all of your questions. So please just pop anything in the chat box or ask a question in the bar at the bottom if there's anything that you do want to ask. I guess people are really busy at the moment, which is one of the things we were talking about when we were talking about it in relation to training as well yesterday, and just saying, how do we find the time when demand's up, we're trying to recover from COVID-19. This feels like quite a lot of work at a time when actually we could be quite busy. So what's the most immediate thing that people can do really to have the biggest impact, that's probably just lets them have a go at doing some of these things without investing too much time early on?
Yeah, I mean, that is the difficulty for everybody. So it is about that tracking thing. But one that you could do instantly today is send yourself an inquiry from your website. Make sure that it actually comes through to you. You know, so I mean, a thing that we used to hear lots about a while ago, and I haven't heard it for a while, is mystery shopping. You know, so doing that whole thing. Get somebody you know to make an inquiry with the business.
Yeah.
You know, just get them to make an inquiry and actually see what happens with it. I remember setting up an office a few years back, and we were going to a new office, and I was doing the fit out and so on. And I drove to the office, as in this new proposed office, into the car park. And I said, right, I am now a customer coming here for the first time. And I walked from the car into the office and mapped out everything I needed. And I suddenly thought, do you know what? Actually, it's not obvious where the front door is here. Okay, well, then I need a sign.
Yeah.
Okay, when I go in there, do you know what? I've just turned up. I'm a bit stressed out. If I go straight into the meeting room, I kind of have it. Well, do you know what? In this area here, we're actually going to build in a reception. We didn't have a reception in this building. We're going to build in a reception, and we're going to put some news on the TV. Not that they want to catch up with the news, but that they will just...
Yeah, absolutely.
Before going into the meeting, because if they've turned up stressed, they've come off a phone call while they were in the car, they've turned in and they've landed in that meeting room where I'm going to try and sell to them my solution, they're not in the right frame of mind.
Yeah.
So it was all designed to say, well, hold on, how would I want to feel as a customer? What would my journey look like? And do it with your own business, because it ties back into what we were saying yesterday with that retail experience. In terms of if you can make the customer want to stay as part of your sales process, that's far easier than you permanently trying to pull them back into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Make them demand that it's you, regardless of the product. Give them a reason.
It is that kind of, we set up these, inquiry forms on websites or emails, and they're never kind of, you just think that that's working. Of course it is. I did that 5 years ago when I set my website up. So of course it's working, and never kind of think to go back. And then, what exactly, as you said, what is that process that a customer goes through? Even if it's just that holding email that goes back to them that says, thank you so much for getting in touch. Really, really appreciate your interest. We're busy fitting at the moment, but as soon as we're back in the office, we will make sure that the right person deals with this, because it's kind of okay not to be on 24/7. Customers wouldn't necessarily expect that, but they need to know at what point they will be communicated with again.
Can you imagine the difference in the experience for the customer if they got this auto reply that came back and said exactly that? We're extremely busy. That actually sounds good. I mean, I wouldn't say use that all the time, but that actually sounds good. We're going to come back to you. Now, when you say we're going to come back to you, then obviously you have to do it. But, we're going to come back to you, within 24 hours. In the meantime, we'd love to share with you our brochure, or we'd love to share with you a few things that previous customers have said, going back into testimony. And you're now thinking, wow, Bob and Dave down the road don't do that.
Yeah.
I didn't even know if Bob and Dave had even got my email. Yeah. But here we are, Andy and Sam, and all of a sudden it's like, wow, that's more like buying from John Lewis. And that's what we need to be creating. At that point, that customer is desperate to stay in your lead process, and they're not that fussed anymore about Bob and Dave. It makes your job easier. Make life easy for yourself.
Yeah, and absolutely that kind of, we talked a little about accountability and kind of making somebody responsible, and that kind of, if you put in your holding email, Andy will be getting back to you in the next 24 hours. It's starting to feel really personal, so that when somebody rings and says, oh, it's Andy from, then they go, oh, yeah, okay, I got that email from you that said you would be calling. I know who you are now. And you've already kind of put a name to the business, and it makes that person in your business accountable as well for following up those leads.
Yeah, 100%. But also the fallback, so when you're setting up this process, make sure that if you've said you'll get back in 24 hours, look, it could be anything. Andy might have fallen off the ladder. Let's face it, life happens. But if you've said you're going to get back in 24 hours, don't get back a week later and say, I'm really sorry because I fell off a ladder. No, somebody gets back to them.
Yeah.
And that I think is where getting those that systematic approach in helps. And I know that when you put in a new IT system, there is a time issue. When everybody's busy, it's the last thing they want to do. I get that, and we see it all the time. But actually, very quickly, it can automate that process for you, so that every single customer should be getting the same experience the same quality experience from you. But that doesn't have to mean lots of work. That's the thing. It doesn't. When these companies are doing it well, they're actually spending less time than some of these companies who are doing it bad. It's about setting it up right in the first place.
And it so sets the tone for the rest of the dialogue and the conversation, doesn't it, in terms of how somebody's been treated and being responded to in terms of that lead. If they've had a good experience then and they're already thinking, this is a company that I'm starting to trust, that I would quite like to work with. I like the way that they've responded to me. I like the speed, the efficiency, what they've said. Then actually it's just a much more positive conversation when you move it along than somebody who's like, oh, right, well, now you've rung me back after a week. Then actually I'm not that bothered anymore.
We call it the emotional bank account. So essentially what that means is every time I have a communication with somebody, if I give them something of value, then I'm going into credit in that emotional bank account. But if I then don't do what I said I was going to do, I'm taking a deposit from it. And we've got to always stay in credit. So therefore you need to stack them up at the front end. You need to put in those positive experiences, because then if you say, okay, the surveyor will be around on Wednesday, and you need to call on Tuesday, genuinely need to call and say, look, I'm really sorry. The surveyor's, like the classic at the minute, he's gone positive for COVID. So I'm arranging another surveyor, but he can't come out until Thursday, or, we'll be able to do it next Tuesday. If you've put in those positive things at the start, you'll get away with it. If you were really slow at the start and then you need to do that, genuinely don't have an option, you haven't got any credit in the emotional bank account. So therefore, no, actually don't bother coming.
Absolutely.
Lost lead. You paid for that lead. Why throw it away? It's so. I think there's so much in this topic. And as I said at the beginning, we're trying to get to perfect, but we won't. That's our target. We're acknowledging we're just going to get as close to it as we can. No company will be perfect at this, but
absolutely,
it doesn't stop us striving for it.
You can certainly be better than where you are now, and that's through about being proactive, automation where you can get it, cutting out some of the inefficiencies, and then just doing what you said you were going to do in terms of replying to people. And there is a cost to all that marketing that you've put into, and we've talked a little bit about social media and how you use that to generate leads and start conversations, and that's all work and time and effort to try and generate these leads. And then if you're not doing anything with them, well, it's wasted effort and time that none of us have got free at the moment. So
and the good work you do, you go out, you do a really good installation, the friends come round for dinner and they say, oh, well, I like the your new door, oh yeah, it was such and such a company. So you've done a really good job. You've put in all the hard stuff. That now has just generated you essentially a referral. That person then goes to the website, because that's how it's done these days. Let's face it, most of the time they're going to go via the website. They go off to the website. It's essentially a slam dunk for you because their friend used you, and then you go and blow it, and you're like, what are you? You've just done all the hard stuff. So you can see why I get passionate about it, because it's so easy to get this stuff right. It really is easy. And yet so often we get it wrong and waste all the hard stuff that we have done. So there we go. Track everything.
Well, I can see how many people are logged on, and unfortunately we can't see all your smiling faces, but I'm sure there are several people sitting behind their laptops going, yes, I know we need to do this. Yes, this is why aren't we doing this? So hopefully we've inspired some people to start thinking about how they start to put some of this in place, and hopefully track those leads more effectively. But Elton, if people want to get in touch with you, where is the best place for them to find you for some more advice?
Yeah, so you mentioned the social media, so Business Pilot, obviously, on any of those platforms. Businesspilot.co.uk is the web address, and you can find all the stuff there. Mine is elton.boocock@businesspilot.co.uk. You'll find us.
Or you can on LinkedIn as well, with all those tips we picked up from David yesterday.
LinkedIn, Elton Boocock on LinkedIn. So anything you want to talk about on this, you can see it's one of my little topics. I don't want you to lose any more leads. You've paid too much for them.
We love your passion. Thank you so much for joining us this morning and carrying on the conversation from yesterday. Really appreciate it. So yeah, if anybody wants to get in touch with Elton, I'm sure he's got more wisdom and gems that he can give you on that. But thank you so much again, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Elton. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
So that wraps up session 1 of day 2 already, and we are going to shortly move into a session with Martin Coyd, who's going to be talking about mental wellness in the construction industry. We all know the statistics, sadly, that come out of this industry, and that we all have a desire to try and help protect our own mental wellness, but also that of the colleagues we work with. So we've just got 5 minutes before Martin's going to go live with his session. So if you want to go grab a brew, stretch your legs, make a quick phone call, then please do so. And we will see you back live with Martin in just about 5 minutes. Thanks, guys.